Hey, my name is Ryan with Yushu, and today I'm going to be going over this brand new pair of Red Wing Merchant 8061s that I just received that are discontinued. The last I saw, you could get this in Amsterdam or Berlin, but for us in the US, you can no longer get this boot. And what I want to talk about today is why I think they're special, the two things that make them unique. We'll go over what they are, the specs of them, and then we'll also talk about sizing. So thank you so much for watching this video. Please enjoy. First, let me tell you why I wanted to get these, and the two things that I think make this boot special. And that was the fact that Red Wing made this boot on the number 8 last, right? So you have that Iron Ranger, the original blacksmith last, but with an unstructured toe. The most famous boot that has this would probably be the Beckman flat box, but you can't get it in the US, and this boot you can't get it in the US anymore. But I do think they should bring that back. The reason being that number 8 last is just such an awesome last. That Iron Ranger's last, I've talked about that before in previous videos, how I love the thin waist but then the wide forefoot. It's just a cool looking last, and getting it in an unstructured toe I think is so cool, so unique. I really feel that more boots should come in an unstructured toe. There's something unique about it, especially if you're not using the boot for work. If you're using the boot for casual wear, I think it is awesome. The other thing that kind of unlocked the coolness to me was on the Patina Project app, was seeing someone who put leather laces in their 8061s. It says it's like an ebony harness leather, but it looks like a dark brown, almost grayish. And the leather laces like that you get from Truman in that boot just make it look so awesome. The boot that's on the Patina Project app, it's fully broken in, and just the rolls that you get with the unstructured toe just make it look absolutely amazing. So that's kind of the quick reason why I got this boot. I was looking to get a flat box, but when these came up for sale on eBay, brand new, never even tried on, and they were factory first, I had to pull the trigger. And for cost, I think they were basically around the cost of a new pair of Iron Rangers. But let me kind of put these down so you can look at them, and I'll go over the specs of the boot. So of course it's the Red Wing Merchant 8061. The leather is ebony harness, so this is an oiled tanned leather to almost give a vintage look or a vintage appearance. The sole of this boot is really cool too. I think this is kind of special too, because I love the cork nitrile sole that was on my original Iron Rangers, but they discontinued that with the Vibram mini lug, and that's a fine sole too. But this reminds me of that old original cork nitrile sole. So this is what they call a chemigum cork sole. This was introduced in 1964, and it provides grip and comfort. They say it feels like a little bit softer than the original cork nitrile sole, and it's a little bit sleeker. It's a little bit thinner of a sole, giving it a little bit sleeker of an appearance, but just a really nice sole. And I love how you can see the cork in it. It is a 6-inch round toe, no structured boot. It came with these brown flat waxed laces, but what I'll say is this was a major fail in my opinion, because with the size of the eyelets, it's really hard to get them in there, so to speak, and it makes lacing them kind of a pain. But with the leather lace, I think it looks awesome. They say to take care of this leather, you just use mink oil, but I feel like if you use mink oil on this, it would kind of change the appearance, darken the boot, maybe make it look more ebony, because this is really just a brown boot right now. But that's what Red Wing always says, basically, is use mink oil and a leather cleaner. And the inspiration behind the Merchant was it was like an homage to Charles Beckman, who founded Red Wing. I guess he was a merchant, of course, and the flat box design was just kind of an homage to him. So that's cool. Obviously didn't sell that well here in the States because they promptly discontinued it. It was launched in 2016, and I think in the US in 2022 it was discontinued, so you can't get it anymore. But I really do wish Red Wing would bring this back. I wish they would bring back more of their flat box styles. I think we're really missing something with getting rid of all these styles for the US market. I think it's a really cool look. It gives it a little bit sleeker of a silhouette, but I do feel we're in a boot world now where a lot of people are just using these as office shoes or just casual shoes. So going with that flat box, is a really cool touch. Let's jump inside the boot, because sorry, I had to do a white bounce here because these boots just came up as black, and I did not want you to see how white my hand looks right there. I did not want you to see this boot as black, because this is the true color of the boot. This is what I'm seeing right now, but that makes it so I have to wash out everything else. So let me get this open for you. So the QC of this boot is really good. So I believe this boot was constructed in 2019, and this is the best QC of any boot that I have from Red Wing in the modern Red Wing. So I do feel like it was kind of at their peak before the pandemic. But you have that thick veg tan insole, you have that heel pad. There is no actual padding underneath the heel pad, but it does have just a piece of chrome tan leather there. You have the external heel counter and then a fiberboard internal heel counter. And then what's funny is they dye the internal, so it's just there is no lining for the uppers, but they dye that brown. But on the tongue they keep it natural, so I'm not sure why they do that. It's the same leather, and they do dye it a little bit here, but yeah, that's just something interesting that Red Wing does. So putting this boot on, it's super comfortable right off the bat. If you know your Iron Ranger size, it's about the same. I would say just a little bit tighter because of that unstructured toe box. The Iron Ranger and the old Beckman have that bump toe, while the new Beckman has a sleeker last, almost closer to the sizing of this last. But what I do love about it is that tight waist. What that does is it gives you natural arch support underneath your arch by just bringing the leather wrapped around your foot a little bit more. So it's a super comfortable boot right off the bat. And then you have a Goodyear welt, of course, like you do with most Red Wings Heritage, and you have that cork filler. So that's a basic overview of the boot. It's a really awesome looking boot. I'll get some footage on feet. If I did, you've already seen that. I'll probably put it throughout the video, but I'll also show you at the end so you can just kind of see. And you know, in typical U-shoe style, this is kind of like a useless video because you cannot get this boot, but it's my hope that one day that we'll change the heritage market for some of these boot makers, and they'll bring back some of these discontinued lines because we'll have more people buying them and just experiencing these really cool, these really different styles, because it's awesome to support a US made boot, Red Wing made in Minnesota. I think if they brought them back, they'd be super popular. But for now, what could you do if you wanted something like this? Well, my thought would be to go to a company like Blackbird, an Indian-based company, and they'll make you a boot very similar to this. They'll make you almost like a custom boot using their round toe lass. You know, the leather's not going to be the same. This leather, while we're talking about them, it is a T-core leather, but the T part of it, right, that interior part is a little bit paler than like the normal Klondike leather you would see on the Beckman flat box. But I think that will T-core even a little bit quicker than that Klondike leather. It's just more of a vintage look, but really cool looking. I think it looks really awesome. And man, with the leather laces, it just came together. This boot is a really special boot that I wish they would bring back. But like I was saying, you could go to an Indian company like Blackbird, see what they would offer you as regards to leather, but they'll make you a boot like this with an unstructured toe, Goodyear welted. You know, it's not going to be made in the US, but it's probably going to be around, a boot like this from them would probably be the 250 to 300 mark, and you can still get something really awesome. But it would be neat if Red Wing would just do it themselves, because that number 8 last is just a special last. I love how they have these little heels, right, and then this huge forefoot. It's just a cool boot, as some in the boot community would say. It's just a vibe. The number 8 last is just a vibe. So thank you so much for watching this. If you have any questions about this boot, let me know. Once I break them in, I will give you an update on them. And like I said, with sizing, do your Iron Ranger sizing. So just go down half a size, and that's going to work for most people. If the Iron Ranger going down half a size is a little bit tight, or your just typical Iron Ranger size is a little bit tight, you may want to size up from it because of that unstructured toe. All right, unfortunately, after a little bit of deliberation and while filming the shots of the on-feet footage of this boot, I realized it's just the sizing isn't going to work out with me. And this is like a super big bummer for me, because it's a common problem with boot brands, and I'll explain it a little bit. But basically, I'm going to be selling these off. I'm going to try to just sell them for what I paid for them, which I think was $350 plus shipping, which is like the price of a new Red Wing boot right now. So just keep in mind it's a factory first. I just tried it on. It does come with the original box. Here's there's information if you're interested in buying them. I'm not going to be putting in the leather laces. I'm going to do the ones that they came with. But basically, here's the deal with the sizings. So I'm a 12.5D/13C. So what I actually think my true measurement size is a 12 3/4. So in the Iron Ranger, a 12 3/4, I go down a half a size, right? Plus a little bit more, and I get 12. And because of the structured toe, it fits perfectly. But in anything unstructured, you lose a little bit of volume, and then I'm just bumping into the front. It's just not comfortable wearing it for like 10 minutes. So I'm gonna have to sell these off. My It's a bummer because what that means is I have to get these or the Beckman flat box boots in a 13, which will be too big, and then I'll have to put an insole in them. But it's just I don't really size right in an unstructured number 8 last. I'm between sizes, and Red Wing, if they offered a 12.5 in these boots, it would be perfect with that flat box. But I'm super disappointed. Really wanted these to work. I think these are amazing boots. I'm not just saying that because I'm trying to sell them, but I do think they look a lot better with leather laces, so I would get a pair of those from like Guarded Goods or something if you were thinking about picking these up. But yeah, they're just not going to work. If you are a 12.5D true on the Brannock, these will work perfectly. If you are a 12D on the Brannock, you can probably throw in an insole and these would work perfectly. But yeah, thanks guys. Sorry to make this little addendum to the video. But now what I'll do is I'll show you the on-feet footage that I've been showing throughout the video. I'll just let that roll to conclude it. But I will see you guys on the next one.